Right, if you're watching this, you're getting ready for an inspector calls, right? I think Act Two is really there's a pivotal moment in it, as in, pivotal means there's a moment that changes your understanding of everything. So, up to this point, Act One, you see very stereotypical behavior from the men. You see Mr. Burling talking in long sentences. You see Gerald completely agreeing with every single thing Mr. Burling says, including the Titanic won't sink, including there won't be a war. It's interesting that Eric, even in chapter one, is attempting to correct his father, or at least stay open minded, unlike his father. And his father just bluntly shuts him off. Now we know when we get to Act 3, Eric turns on his father and openly accuses him, saying, You're not the kind of father a man can turn to. And I think that's obviously symbolic because Eric is the new generation, and what he symbolizes is a different way forward, which is what Priestley's message is all about. Now, this piece, this is my lovely cue card, which is dual coded, as you can see here. We're going to run through a few of the yellow highlights and the purple ones as well. G means Gerald. Mrs. B is Mrs. Burling. G, Gerald. E, Eric. Mrs. Burling. I is Inspector. SD is stage directions. Really important because that will be a structural feature deliberately implemented by the playwright, or in your case, the author or the writer. So let's walk through this very briefly. Color in my arrow for a sec. Okay, Gerald is listening to the inspector explain that a girl has died, and he simply says, I don't come into this suicide business. Now, really important, the objectification of females. Now, we know in 1914 females didn't have a vote. They were purchased by men during arranged marriages, and their entire purpose was to run the household and breed, as in have children. And their actual their actual existence beyond that was irrelevant in the official society manual. Now, obviously, that's a very generic stereotypical stance. You'll obviously get relationships when, even though they are in arranged marriages, they learn to love each other. It becomes a very special relationship. But that's not what Miss Priestley is writing about. Priestley is writing about the generic ones where that doesn't happen. All right, so Priestley is not saying it can't work. He's just exemplifying examples when it doesn't work to highlight the fact that it's torture to be forced to marry somebody that you have no connection with and do not love. All right, so this is clear objectification of females and also of workers, where you simply say, I mean, it's very callous. I don't come into the suicide business means it will never happen in my factory. This doesn't exist in my world. Now, of course, that's willful blindness. You choose to be blind to the issue. And Gerald here is doing what he's the younger, up and coming generation who contrasts with Eric. He's prepared to toe the line, whereas Eric is prepared to question it. And that's the big difference between Eric and Gerald. So Gerald might look more of a man because Mr. Burling approves of him, but Eric is the one to follow. Then, of course, something very, very horrible happens, and Gerald has a complete change of script. When he hears that Daisy Renton is dead, he looks crushed. Now that's a stage direction. And that's brutal because what we do know about Gerald is he is a stereotypical young upper class male who will also be forced into an arranged marriage. Technically, it's a little like Sheila. Now, we know that he doesn't love Sheila because we know that he actually loves Daisy. And if you've got any questions about that, you just need to go and read the page where he tries to leave and he's got all of those dashes. I wonder if I can find it right here. It is just so telling. He's so upset that he actually can't stay in the room. Oh, look at that. It's page 39. Page 39, people. There you go. Okay. Now, Mrs. Burling, notice how many times the word business is copy and pasted. That is called a motif. Do you know this word? Motif is a big fancy title. It just means when a author wants to highlight the key message about whatever it is they're writing, they copy and paste a key phrase or a key word across the entire thing. So, for example, in Macbeth, Shakespeare wants to say, if you commit a sin, you'll feel guilty and you won't be able to sleep. So that's why Macbeth repeats sleep, no sleep, no sleep, no sleep. And then he's got other phrases like dreamless, nightmares, etc. So between a motif and a semantic field, which is a pattern of words, different words that form the idea that Macbeth cannot sleep because he's guilty, he's drowning in it. Those carry the message of the writer. So here, the fact that this cruelty is simply business, that's their excuse. That's the reason why they don't change. That's the reason why they keep going. That's the reason why they choose to look away. And I think the key idea here for Priestley as this is that it's choice. The businessmen have choice. My question is, do they? Because it's all very well for Priestley to say a businessman can choose different, but we all know what peer pressure is like. Now, how much worse is peer pressure when money is involved? These men are businessmen, and the purpose of business is for profit. The moment you pay your workers more, you threaten the profit. So you might be going, I'm going to, look at it in terms of kindness and morally it's the right thing to do. But all the other businessmen in your group are going to think that your business practices are illogical. There's going to be a lot of criticism. You just want to blend in. You want to fit in. You want to share business. You want to come across as a mature businessman. You can see why. There's a lot of pressure to conform to the standard pay that normal poor folk like Ava Smith are given. So it's not an easy choice Mr. Burling is laid with. And I think Priestley needs to remember that this is society shifting. It's not one business and making a change that no one will notice. For a businessman to make this change, the entire standard of their industry will shift. And that takes a brave person. And I think you can work out by now that Mr. Burling doesn't qualify as a brave person. He qualifies as a loud person. Remember on pages 1, 2, and 3, think of for how long did he talk? Like 4 pages during somebody else's engagement. He absolutely interrupted the moment and then dominated it with long sentences and his voice. So if that's not a symbol of selfishness, I'm not sure what is. Structurally, it's really clear. Mr. Burling really feels that he is powerful, but he's only powerful financially. He's not powerful morally. And he's not powerful in terms of bringing real change to a community. Now, if you want to get a knighthood, that's the entire reason for doing so, is you make a change for the better for society. And often a knighthood requires sacrifice. Now, I think we could agree Mr. Burling sacrifices exactly nothing. So, again, It's business, business, business. Even Mrs. Burling, she mirrors him by saying, oh, let's forget about this absurd business. She calls the death of a girl absurd. Now, I love how that contrasts later when she tells Eric, when she realizes her grandson is dead, she tells Eric, I didn't understand. Now, of course she does. She's not an idiot. She's willfully blind. She's deliberately ignorant. Ava Smith came to her charity as Alice Gray or as Mrs. Burling and asked for help. The verb there, asked, is just such a wonderful verb. It's so simple. Even in, now remember, this is a religious society. When you ask for something, you will receive something. That is what it states, because you're not demanding something. Now, of course, Mr. Burling is. He's demanding that his workers work under these conditions. He's demanding that they do not strike. He's demanding that they do not explain to him the realities of their existence. And as a result, they rebel, or they try. Ava Smith simply asks for help, and she's refused. The word refused is really repeated. And I think Mr. Burling doesn't just refuse Ava Smith's request. He refuses to see her reality. He refuses to see her struggle. He refuses to see her pain. He refuses to involve himself in her stability as an unmarried female. He simply refuses her in every way that matters. And in terms of failure, that failure is 100% complete. But it's a pretty brutal game. He's playing with people's lives. So when you're concluding this, these are the things you say. It's like, Priestley's angry because how dare men like Mr. Burling, who are lucky enough to be empowered with wealth, how dare they forget from whence they came, how hard it was to grow to that point? How dare they shut their ears to the cries of those who are good workers? He literally calls her a good worker, but he fired her anyway. Look at this word here, wretched. Wretched means damned, which means beyond saving. Let's put that in context. Imagine you have a peanut butter sandwich in your lunchbox and you get to break. You go and sit somewhere. You open your lunchbox, you take it out, and someone bumps you. And the sandwich lands in a muddy patch, a nice, wet, muddy patch. Your sandwich also opens, so the one slice goes away, exposing the peanut butter, and the peanut butter lands flat down, face down in the mud. You lift it up, and there's grit, grass, mud, some kind of water. It's filthy. You cannot eat this sandwich. Even if you scrape the peanut butter off, it's all over. It's wet. It's soaked. Right, so it's unsalvageable. That's how they're describing Ava Smith, as unsalvageable. However, she isn't. She's a young girl who's a good worker, who's got a strong moral code. She tells Eric to stop stealing, and then she falls pregnant, birthing the next generation. It's quite a thing for Ava Smith to decide that the world is not good enough for her little person that she's growing, that she makes the choice to actually spare the little child its life by killing it alongside her. It's a protective move. But that is a brutal choice, which is unnecessary. And that's what Priestley's saying. All of this suffering is unnecessary. All of this is convenience. It's convenient and comfortable. And that's what Priestley's saying. He's saying no. No. And in Sheila's words, stop pretending. What a great message. What a great message. 2 words, simple sentence, straightforward. And worst of all, It's the sort of sentence you tell a child. It's the sort of sentence you tell a child who is misbehaving and who you are correcting as an adult. So you can hear Priestley is angry, and this polemic, this verbal attack at characters, archetypes like Mr. Burling, is gloves off. He is taking it to the core. He's exposing Mr. Burling and characters like him for the cruel humans they are. So the inspector comes in, and of course, the inspector is the voice of Priestley. He shatters the facade. Remember, a facade means mask. We remember this from Jekyll and Hyde, the idea of duplicity, of being a hypocrite. Of course, linking to their religion, this is something that is highly frowned upon. Highly frowned upon. Priestley is exposing the rotten society, and there it is again, that rot inside the society. And think about all the men like Mr. Burling. They're rotting one another. This rot of greed is spreading between them. Mr. Priestley comes in and he tips the bowl over by letting the phone ring. A girl has died. A crime has been committed. The police are coming to ask questions. The physical law is intervening with these men. Another thing that Priestley does beautifully is this open door, closed door business. It's very similar to the setting in the beginning where the lights are all intimate. And then when the inspector walks in, the stage direction says, make the light harsher and brighter, pushing the shadows out, exposing the truth, laying it bare, interrupting them, walking into their physical bubble. That's all very, very highly threatening. And that's the point of the play. Priestley is threatening men now because they haven't listened to logic up to now. And he's lost his patience. He wants to see change. He needs to see change because people are dying. Real people are dying. So, very symbolic here. And of course, notice the rhetoric from the adults, Mr. Burling, Mrs. Burling, silly, stupid. They just try to dismiss it. They try to excuse it. And in comes Mr. Priestley in the form of the inspector and says, no more pretending.